Michael C. I'm a teacher. I'm a son. I'm a brother. I'm an uncle. I'm a friend. I'm a husband. But most importantly, I'm a father. I created TheSkyBoxx in 2021 to show to you that being a rapper and a ball player isn't the only way they can provide opportunities for themselves. In Season 5, Rise Above, we're going to explore some special guest journeys and see how they rose above their circumstances. And they just didn't become good, they became great. Welcome to Rise Above. It's me, Michael C., the source of light over the mic. In this episode today, we have a discussion with Mr. Wynton Williams. He's a business real estate entrepreneur, and we discuss his journey, financial literacy, and his real estate strategies, and a lot more. Now, let's see how he rises above and doesn't let his temporary setback become his permanent failure. Sit back and enjoy. Welcome to Rise Above, brought to you by TheSkyBoxx, where we don't let our temporary failures become our permanent setback. Right now, let me sit back and let me think about this for a second. In the previous episodes we've been talking about things like education. And when it came to a couple of teachers that I've had, shout out to Mr. Micheal, Miss Aldwin, and Mr. Cobb. You already know what it is. But there was a thing that really stuck out when they were talking. 2 words. When it comes to youth, financial literacy. And when it comes to this guy, he's brightened my eyes with not just on the financial literacy side, but he also brightened my eyes when it comes to real estate. He doesn't talk about beating the block. He's talking about owning the block. I want to introduce you to someone. I want to introduce to you my man, my mentor, Mr. Wynton Williams. What's good with you, guy?
What up, man? How are you?
Welcome to Rise Above, guy. You already know what it is,
Appreciate
man.
it.
You already know what it is.
You got me stepping out of my comfort zone.
Man,
I'll never do this.
I had to, man. Hey, but you did it at Rise Above.
Yeah.
There you
absolutely.
go, my guy. Let's get right into it, my man. What was the biggest flip on a house that you've ever had?
Wholesale deal. So it was a flip that, honestly, when I started it, I never seen it. Didn't even know the area. And it was an amazing flip. And the reason I say it was an amazing flip because I learned so much from it. Because the end buyer that I actually sold it to gave me, endless gems from selling it to him because he's a big dog in the game. He's been a big dog in the game. He also used to have a podcast. And the reason he actually caught my attention years prior to that, he actually had Grant Cardone on his podcast, and which is huge, big dog in the game. So the reason me and him connected so well because the lifestyle he lives is actually a goal of mine, man. He lives a very good lifestyle, nice house, nice cars, multiple cars, and he's actively in the game. And that's why I ended up going with him ultimately for that real estate deal. Was 10 houses. It was actually owned by a hospital. The hospital owned the property. They were going a different way. They were selling the property, the actual house. But it's crazy. My biggest real estate deal was also my biggest lesson at the same time.
Wow, that's interesting. What would you say that the real estate game changed not just you and your family's way of life, but just your mind frame?
It definitely did, man, because in the beginning, like when I first started real estate, like I was just looking at it from a quick cash standpoint. And then eventually, after seeing that deal, like pretty much unfold in my hands and having to work that deal, which was the largest transaction I did so far in real estate at one time, um, that changed a lot of stuff. You know, when you see six figures unfold on one deal, you know what I mean, and all it is a bunch of email and text messages and phone calls back and forth. I literally only made three phone calls back to the controller. I wouldn't even say the owner because she wasn't the owner, but she was in control of the real estate side for that for those buildings and stuff like that too. So when the deal was actually brought to me by my partner, and he asked me to unfold it, um, there was only three people that I bought it to, you know, and the two people that I bought it to the first time just weren't at the magic numbers that I wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the third guy that I bought it to, he agreed to it right away.
Right.
And this is how you know somebody's really in the game and understands the game and want to see everybody win. Because the first thing he told me was, "Yo, you're asking for too less of money." He's like, "You gotta go higher." He's like, "You know
Well,
what I
well,
mean?"
we're looking at millions.
So
Let me
so you
look
see
at
the big lesson in that?
That's what I'm like. I can't even fathom that. You know. That's. Let me
See,
ask you this then. We're going to look at that million side, but now I'll go to that other side
mhm.
where I don't have any money. My question to you is: could I start this real estate game with absolutely nothing?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. Because to date, you figure I started this in 2015, and I've probably only spent maybe 20,000 out of pocket. You know what I mean? So you don't necessarily you don't have to have money to get into this business. You just gotta have the drive, and you gotta be willing to ask for help and call people. You know, yeah, absolutely. And that's the biggest thing that I seen with our culture is just like, man, I ain't doing that. All right, well, your pride's gonna leave you broke.
I know that's right. What's the biggest lesson that you learned that you've been taught through the real estate?
The biggest lesson that I learned with real estate is literally O.P.M.
Meaning?
Other people's money.
Mm.
Because the simple fact is, like, I used to always look at it like, yo, that's a dope deal, but I can't do it because I can't afford it. And it's just like, once I got farther along in the process, I realized, like, A, I don't know every avenue I could take to get out of this deal. And then B, I don't know every avenue I could take to get into the deal.
Yeah, right.
You know what I mean?
Right,
And it's just like there's so many deals that cross my table that I'm just like, nah, that ain't gonna work, nah, that ain't gonna work, nah, that ain't gonna work. Because we had a cold caller, I think they were sending us about almost 45 deals a week. And I was probably only converting maybe three or four of them.
But it's still, oh, wow, 45?
Yeah.
And if you're
You see what
missing
I'm saying?
42,
You see what I'm
and just think
saying?
about if he picked it up and said, all right, well, if you don't get in,
Right.
just keeps
And
on doing that, he
understand.
might get all 45 of
Right.
them sooner or later.
Really understanding acquisition and disposition was a huge thing. And it's like, I'm still learning.
Guys, but this is an interesting conversation. I told you he was going to come with them gems. But I'll give you a few, let you marinate on that, and we'll be back in a few on Rise Above after this. We're back on Rise Above, and I still got my guy, Wynton Williams here, talking to us about financial literacy and the real estate game. Let's keep it going here. What's the first thing you learned about the real estate game? We already know what the most valuable thing you learned about the real estate game, but what's the first lesson you learned about the real estate game?
I might have to say information overload. Because the first time I went to a class about real estate, I think it was too much. I think it was too much information at one time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I learned. Like, I really understood what people meant. How do you eat an elephant? And it really is one bite at a time. And I felt like when I first went to my first real estate class, it was too much. Like they started off with all the big gems, and then they got into the stuff of how you get started, and it was kind of like, damn,
It's a
all
lot.
right,
It's a
all
lot.
right, this is too much. Like,
It's
all
a
right,
lot.
so where do I actually get started? Because now you thinking about the getting started process, but you also trying to think about, all right, how do I get this Lambo? How do I get my
Right,
dream house?
right,
How,
right,
you know what I mean? So it's
right.
like for me, I think that was like the biggest lesson that I learned for me starting off is like, don't overload yourself with information. Unpack that beginning piece of how you get started, and then really dive and dig into that.
What's the most important part of real estate investing and why?
I think the most important part of real estate, I would say, is understanding the buy and hold game and knowing for sure what passive income is. Because a lot of times, like myself, I got so sucked into the quick money that I overlooked so many deals that I was wholesaling that should have been buy and holds.
So do you feel there's times where you, I won't say know the difference, but when you're making that deal, do you sometimes say to yourself, oh, this would be a good hold, but it's not a bad flip.
So yes and no. I mean, you do know the difference in that, but for me being new, like when I first started doing that, it was kind of like I was teaching my own self from my mistakes. It's a real different lesson.
What part of the real estate investing is still difficult for you to learn?
So for me, I still want to learn underwriting and actually understanding
And what is that?
the banking side, like your approvals on deals, like what you're actually getting approved for on deals, and how to get it approved, and what actually gets you to that closing table.
Okay.
Like knowing and understanding what's gonna get you to that closing table. And I figure that's still one of my biggest struggles that I need to learn the ins and outs of. And then also another big thing for me is understanding, I would say, creative financing, because not everything is about a bank. Sometimes you just got to get real creative with how you're doing a deal.
Communicate in words.
Right.
Actually, your brain transfers it into a picture.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yeah.
that's what, like, when
Right.
you talk about those $1 million houses, I have a thought of $1 million house, and you have a thought of $1 million house.
Correct.
And they're totally different.
Right.
Totally different perspective.
Right.
And when it comes down to it.
Mm-hmm.
What advice would you give a person that isn't sure about real estate investing right now?
Do your research, man. I would say, like, now what you got for a $500,000 house ain't the same what you're getting for a $500,000 house with this interest rate.
That's just
The
what
payment
it
ain't
is.
the same. It's
Right.
not the same. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
as simple as that. I know that much. You know what I mean?
I do
I'm
too.
still learning that
Mhm.
in full details, but I know that much.
Mhm.
What you could get for a $500,000 house is not the same now. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And it's wild to see that. The example I tell people all the time is like my first house. I was 20 years old when I bought my first house. My first house was $125,000. That same house sold in 2021. I think 21. Yeah, 2021 for 205.
I told you guys again, me and him do this. Well, no, I try to call you once a month, and we
Yeah,
usually talk
yeah,
about an hour every time about
yeah.
business, just life in general.
Pop my headphones in.
There it is, man. You already know what it is. But y'all see what we do here on Rise Above. Just sit back, let that marinate again. Telling you, man, the housing market could get hot pretty soon on the horizon. Well, just give it a little bit. We'll be back to you on Rise Above after this. All right, all right, all right. We're back. We're back on Rise Above, and you know who it is. It's me, Michael C., the source of life over the mic. I got my guy, Wynton Williams, talking that talk. You already know what it is. We about to get to the tough questions now. Let's go get them. A young entrepreneur out there in high school and college approaches you, and he wants to buy a home. What is that advice that you would give him?
Oh man. The same advice I wish somebody would have gave me when I was younger. House hack. House hack. And for people that don't, people
What is that?
I'm gonna say people that may call this something different. This is something that a lot of people my age and people older too still call it that. It's pretty much instead of wasting your money on a single family ranch house like I did, because I was young, dumb, uneducated in the real estate base. Um, Go buy a 3 unit. Go buy a 4 unit and live in one of the units. Do it for 3, 4, 5 years. Refi.
Mm-hmm.
Get into the next one. Do the same thing.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Refi.
Yep.
Get into the next one. Do the same thing.
But what if I'm a family man? I really can't go in there and just live in a 3, 4 unit.
Why can't you? You don't sacrifice?
I know that's right. That's what I was trying to get to.
You know what I
mean? You always have that. No, you're not. No, you're not.
There's still some banks out here really throwing loans at you. So, fresh out of college, what are you, about 22, 23? Yeah, I'm not a college guy. I ain't even gonna sit here and lie like I am. I went to college, but
yeah.
Let's go with the ultimate. You say family man. So let's say you're married with 2 kids. You can't survive in a 2-bedroom house for 2 years, 3 years.
2 kids.
2 kids.
How old are they?
2 kids.
How old are they?
If you're fresh out of college,
there got to be about. Yeah, they better be about like 3 or 4.
It should be like 3 or 4. So you're telling me a 3 or 4-year-old can't be in the same room for 2 years, 3 years, till they 5, 6, 7 years old?
Yeah.
All right. So that's the thing. So look at it like this, right? And these are not fully accurate, so please don't quote me on this down the line or nothing like that.
Right. This is just our opinion.
Just an opinion.
You already know what I mean. You see,
I'm not getting started on a lane because I don't want to, I don't want to get nobody bad advice on that. Talk to an accountant about that. Talk to an accountant. I don't want to give you bad advice on that. But sacrifice in the beginning, so in the long run you can have, you're already 10 steps ahead of everybody else by living in a 4 unit. Not to mention, people don't really think about. That's your first home purchase out of college, right?
Right.
Guess what?
They're paying for it.
Not even that. First time home buyers. So you're not paying a hold down deposit. Go borrow that $3,000, $4,000 from your grandparents. Uncle.
Yeah, watch what's gonna happen.
Go on Facebook and ask somebody for the $3,000 because they know they're about to get it back off of birth strategy.
That's true.
Think about it. If I called you right now and say, "Yo, can I borrow $4,000?" It's January.
You're different.
It's January right now.
You're different.
So
you're different.
It's not about being different. But I said,
you're trying to. No, if I can't trust somebody with $3-4,000, if you came there, I know what you're capable of doing. Someone else came with me. You might have to show me a proposal or somehow. I'm gonna give up my $3-4,000.
Nah, for what? Why? You know why I'm gonna trust you? Because I'm gonna put my name down as a lien holder on your property if you default on it.
Oh, yeah.
You see what I'm saying? They know that. I might know that as a college kid. I'm telling you that information, and when you come back and you fire that question to me, why would somebody trust me with $3,000? Because they're gonna be a lien holder on your property. It's the same thing why a bank trusts you to take a loan out to go get a vehicle. They trusting you gonna go get that vehicle, right?
Right.
Guess what? If you don't go get that vehicle,
that's mine.
They're coming after your ass.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? So you got to think about it like that when it comes down to the advice of a college kid. It's just like, yeah, you're going to have all the questions in the real. It's just like, why am I doing this? Why am I doing that? I'm going to tell you right now, I just did a wholesale deal with a kid that was 18 years old. This dude called me in gym class.
Go ahead.
Gym class.
Go ahead.
Yo, when the number rang on my phone, it was a 610 number. And I was like, who the heck? He called me, he was like, yo, you interested to do this? And I was like, I said, bro, yeah, sure. I go to look at the property. I'm giving him a little advice. He's like, oh, I appreciate that, man. This is only my second deal. He said I'm 18. I was floored. I was like, bro, I wish I had that advice. Yeah, all day, man. Like, you know how crazy it would be if me and you started in the real estate game at 18 years old?
We'd probably be sitting in the French Riviera.
We would have been at that 2008. we would have been right there.
Right. 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 You're right. You're right.
You
You're
know,
right.
I got out of high school in 07. So we would have been
Think
there.
about that.
You see what I'm saying? But
Look-
yeah.
With looking at the economy and the way it is, do you think it's going to get better to buy or to rent?
Honestly, I'm gonna give you a real life opinion about that. At the end of the day, if I'm renting a property, the owner still has to make money. So you renting, to me, this is just my opinion, it's still gonna be higher than what a mortgage can be.
What were some of the setbacks that happened in the process of purchasing, rehabbing, or even selling a home?
Jesus. Oh my gosh. Everything.
So it was a temporary setback.
It was a temporary setback. I lost money, but I gained a lot of knowledge and a lot of things because I learned to become very resourceful when it came to materials and labor. So now when you start peeling back drywall and it's like, oh, bro, that electrical ain't supposed to be like that. I know it ain't supposed to be like that. Why the outlet black?
Well, right.
Why the plumbing going this way? You know what I mean? So it's one of them things where you just like,
Okay.
all right, now it's time to get dirty.
Put
you
my
know?
thing to it.
Now it's time to really get dirty and really get into it. And it's just like, all right, let's dive into YouTube University.
So do you do you look into those like home buyer shows, and do you look at the design?
So I was always
the AGTV and stuff.
So I was always an HGTV guy. Like we used to lay up, sit back, watch HGTV, and be like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do that one day. I'm gonna do this one day. I'm gonna be honest with you. And this is my personal opinion. Don't come for me. I think they be lying about the numbers, yo.
Or they got a guy.
Right.
Or they got a guy.
So when I really learned it, and shout out to my mentor because my mentor was actually one of them people that had a lot to do with a lot of the stuff on HGTV. When I really learned it and went through all those struggles that I went through at that property, it was like, all right, I gotta get dirty. So biggest lesson was, right, I had an electrician come over. Shout out to my guy Zach, right? He was so straightforward with me. And this is why I think lazy people are the most resourceful people on earth, right?
Explain.
And I'm not calling my guy Zach lazy at all. He's not lazy, he's just hella busy. Lazy people will come up with the most creative ways to get a task done the right way because they don't want to come back a second time. So
that's detail oriented.
So for my guy Zach, he was straightforward with me. He was like, "Yo, listen, this is what I need. This is what you need to get. This is how I want it done." I gave him a can of paint and a marker, and I said, "Yo, go mark everything." And I did all the labor work for it, and then he hooked everything up. It's different. I had no problem throwing mulch, humping rocks, building ponds. You know what I mean? Walkways, paver patios, decks. I have no problem doing all of that stuff. But when you learn a new service that you never had to do before, and it's kind of like, yo, this is crazy.
Give respect.
You got major respect for that. But I also learned that's a major dent in the bill that I no longer have to pay because I did it.
Because you're becoming a renaissance man.
You know what I mean? So it was like, yo, he was like, bro, do all this and I'll just do the hookup, and here's what your bill's gonna be. I was like, say less.
Yeah, because that was what
it ain't touching my pockets.
That was so crazy.
It ain't touching my pockets.
Nope. You're good to roll.
Yeah, absolutely. All day.
So let's look at this.
All day.
Out of all these stories we've been talking about right now, everything we've been blessing y'all with, what's the end game?
My end game, and it's crazy. So I just talked to my mentor about this about a month and a half, 2 months ago. So as a lot of people probably don't know, I don't have a real estate license. One of my goals is to get a real estate license after talking to my mentor. After speaking with my mentor, he went and got his during the pandemic. His reasoning for getting his during the pandemic was the realtors he was paying were just making too much money. And he felt like, why am I paying them to do something that I can really do by myself and I have the free time to do it? So that's one of my end goals. And that's what I would call, for me, that's one of my short-term goals. That needs to be accomplished this year. I would say by the end of the summer.
There you go.
I need to accomplish that. And that's not hard for me. It's more or less finding the time for that.
Right.
It's all about locking in, man. And you got to be willing to lock in. Like, there's things, I never live with regrets. I'll say that. But I look back on a lot of stuff like I should have stuck with certain
I think so.
instead of giving up as fast as what I did because of misinformation.
I will legit respond to any question that you may think about. I will respond to it. That's just me. That's who I am. Because people gave me a chance, I'll give anybody a chance. That's just it.
It is. That's the truth. That's the truth. You already know what it is.
Well, you already know what it is. We're going to have our final send-off, and then after that, you already know what we're about to do next. It's going to be the podcast. But we'll be back here on Rise Above after this. Hey, if you have any thoughts, questions, or concerns, hit me up at number one SkyBoxx at gmail.com. I will read and I will respond to every question, thought, or concern. And I may even put 1 or 2 questions on the next episode. And also remember, be good to yourself, y'all. Well, due to business ventures, Mr. Wynton Williams had to depart. But that's just the life of a business real estate entrepreneur. Thank you for tuning in. And if you like this episode, I'd love to hear from you. Email me at number one SkyBoxx at gmail.com with your thoughts, questions, or who would you like to see on a show. I would like to thank Mr. Wynton Williams for giving me all his insight when it comes down to real estate strategy, financial literacy, and a lot more. My name is Micheal C., the source of life over the mic. And until next time, be good to yourself, y'all.